everybody, it's Ryan McCaffrey with IGN. We're here at 343 Industries with Kynan Pearson, the lead multiplayer level designer on Halo 4. We're getting a tour of all 10 Halo 4 multiplayer maps. We've reached the end of the alphabet. Vortex is the name of the map we're about to see. This is the 10th one we're looking at. Of course, maybe this is the first video you're watching. We've got all 10 videos. Look them up on IGN.com. Kynan, tell us about Vortex.
So Vortex is a Forerunner space. It's another large-scale vehicular combat map that we have. This one takes place on a Forerunner, in a Forerunner location that Oni's researching. So they've got a base set up there to try and figure out what's happening with this location. Right now, they're kind of convinced that these structures are harnessing the planet's wind for power.
So interestingly, if you've watched all of the other multiplayer map video tours with Kynan, this is now our, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, arguably 5th large-scale multiplayer map. That seems like more than previous Halo games. Have you guys taken more of an emphasis on the larger scale vehicle-friendly maps for Halo 4?
Well, in general, just because we have sprint by default, it means that the scale of some of our maps needed to be a little bigger to facilitate making sure that the time to death and that the encounter times were lengthened enough so that they weren't going by too quickly and people weren't respawning, getting into battle, and dying immediately. So the map scale, by necessity, had to increase just off of that shift. That being said, our mid-scale maps, like mid-large, something like Complex, still works great for 4v4.
Right.
And so while it seems like it's larger, it's actually kind of in our, just in the mid-range rather than large.
So you're saying maybe they seem bigger, but they actually play a little bit smaller compared to previous Halo games.
Yeah, with the scale, you can still move around very quickly in the vehicles, but again, just being able to sprint from cover to cover means that you can cover a lot of ground quickly on the larger scale maps. So this map, Vortex, you have this bowl, which is down in the center of the map where everything kind of funnels down towards. And it's fairly wide open, even though there is a large structure that is located above this kind of lower area. Gives you a lot of long lines of sight so that you can have scoped weapon combat, some long range, but also there's ample cover and kind of some separate sub-routes giving you plenty of opportunity for close range and mid-range. Here I just went into the center structure, which when you're playing Dominion ends up being one of the locations that you reinforce. There's routes that you can drop down from in here to make escapes if people are kind of rushing in and you're not ready for combat, but you also have these ramps that go down to some side structures that are located on the outsides of the map.
What vehicles are in here by default?
By default, we have the Wraith, Ghost, Rocket Hog, and...
Rocket Hog, huh?
Yeah. So this version of the map, this mode might not actually have it in, but typically it'll spawn down here in the center of the map for objective game types. So it's right in the middle of the map. Everybody can make a mad rush for the Rocket Hog.
Well, we've seen some of the maps, of course, have the standard Warthog with the machine gun. Some have the Gauss Hog, and now a Rocket Hog. When you're sitting down with a map, what makes you decide on which variant of the Warthog to go with?
Again, it comes down to what the map supports, and we wanted to have a large variety of vehicles, and because we had quite a few variants that we wanted to actually use in the map variants and kind of the different modes, we wanted to take advantage of those. So sometimes that doesn't mean that we get to use them all that often, but we wanted to make sure that people had something that they could go to experience them that wasn't just custom games for fun.
And you did also mention in one of the other map tour videos that, in fact, it was XIII where the Scorpion was. We were asking about the Scorpion, implementing the Scorpion by default versus the Wraith. Now here you've gone with the Wraith. What makes this map a good fit for the Wraith as opposed to the Scorpion?
Well, the Wraith as a vehicle can strafe, which gives it the capabilities of getting into and out of tighter areas. It doesn't require as much clearance as the Scorpion does, just because in general it's a smaller form factor, it's not as long. So here you can see that the lines of sight in the level actually support kind of the arc of the Wraith shot. Right. So it just works really well for cresting over hills and getting into certain areas, and basically it makes it more interesting to try and fire on people from distance because it's a more skill-based shot. And it can be vulnerable if you take into these center structures, just because people can use the plasma pistol to EMP it and gain ground. So you still have to protect it much like you would another power vehicle on
all the same countermeasures still work on it, so meaning, you try and flank around behind it and get up and hit it with a grenade and destroy it?
Yeah, absolutely. So while there are elements of it that have changed visually and in regards to the tuning, it's very familiar to fans of the Wraith that have enjoyed using it in previous games.
So how has this map evolved over time as it's been tweaked? Because we've got quite a healthy selection of vehicles. You've got these turrets. Where did this map start versus where it's ended up?
So when this map started, there was, prior to defining kind of the structures of the map in terms of where we were going to separate the natural terrain from where the structures were, those have definitely changed in terms of their form and function for supporting Dominion, and where, in fact, we use the bases for the Dominion game type have also changed over time. We've shifted them to work along these edges from this side to the other, just because it keeps Dominion fast-paced, interesting, but we did leave the other base structures in case people, or we created custom variants or whatever that needed to support it lengthwise.
Now that man cannon there on the ground, that'll get you straight into the middle real quick.
Yeah. So right here, the major landmark of the level is this kind of wind tunnel that goes into the center structure. And if you kind of follow along that, it'll bring you over to this man cannon, which is kind of a really direct shortcut route from this end of the map into the main structure.
Now, it looks like if you wanted to be sadistic, could you get your ghost on that man cannon and be up here with the ghost?
You can get the ghost into the structure just by using the ramps, and you can kind of go up there. But this is not a vehicle man cannon, so it's an infantry-only variant of the man cannon for the map balance purposes. But this side also has a equivalent man cannon that'll lift you onto that upper platform. So there's a lot of different routes to get into the central structure, and there's a lot of ways to reinforce kind of the outer base areas.
Now, when does the decision come into play to cut out a vehicle or two from previous Halo games? Like, we don't see the Falcon at all here. Yeah,
that's more of a question that should be directed at our sandbox guys, at our sandbox lead, Chris King. But for the most part, it all depends on what the game needs based on what's happening with all of the sandbox items. So sometimes, we'll experiment with things that just don't tend to work out, or there's any number of factors that might prevent something from making it, or even prioritize something else from going in first.
Well, that is a look at Vortex and another of the 10 Halo 4 multiplayer maps. Kynan, thanks very much for all things Halo 4. All the multiplayer map tours, you're in the right place, IGN.com.